The first wretched, a former, older man, stumbled through the now open door, barely giving him enough time to crawl back through the hole and grab a weapon. It screeched, alerting a couple more monsters on the street behind it, and crashed lightly into the makeshift barrier. It didn't fall. Isaac used this short opportunity to grab the crowbar and hide next to the opening. If he wanted this plan to work, they had to come to him. His lethal weapons didn't really have enough reach. Thankfully, the wretched didn't take long to recover and climbed into the hole. As soon as the top of its head appeared on Isaac's eye, he counted to 3 and swung the crowbar with all his strength. The creature let out a strangled squeal as the blow sent it sprawling onto the dresser that made the base of the barricade. Wasting no time, Isaac unsheathed the hunting knife, pulled the wretch's head up by its hair, and plunged the blade into one of its eyes. He expected resistance, maybe for the knife to get stuck, but for once, the internet hadn't lied. The bone behind the eye crumbled under the force of his strike. The monster stilled, its arms falling limp at his sides. One down, Isaac thought, as the adrenaline coursing within his veins intensified, the song of blood growing louder. It begged him for more, and he was happy to oblige. More wretched were already approaching anyway. Quick, he grabbed the corpse by the collar and dragged it onto his side and out of the hole. Even if it would disappear in a moment, he didn't want it to block the only path for the wretched to reach him. Who knew what they would do if they couldn't come through it? To Isaac's relief, he didn't have to find out just yet. The next 3 wretched followed the pattern of the first one, giving him more than enough time to stab them through the eyes before the next one came. The same, however, could not be said for what came after. 3 more wretched barreled through the entrance. The narrow doorway stopped one of them from coming through right away, but the other to simply screech at each other as they slid inside. When they reached the barricade's opening, neither was willing to go second. They hissed and wailed as they slammed into his creation. The entire construction shook, and Isaac knew he had to do something if he didn't want this whole thing to go down like a house of cards. Just as the duo attempted to climb through together in a tangled mess of limbs, he snatched the nearest broom handle and stuck it into the opening. The wretched on the left squeaked as it lost its grip and tumbled backward, losing the hold on its kin. That solved one problem, only to create another. The wretched on the right, now free of its burden, lunged forward, reaching the end of the hole in the blink of an eye. Isaac cursed, dropped the broom, and ducked just in time to avoid a swipe of the beast's hand. Thanks to his new position, he grabbed the crowbar lying on the floor and raised it just in time to block another incoming strike. The wretched let out a surprised grunt, but he didn't give it time to realize what had just happened. He drove his fist into its cheek, then followed up with a stab to the neck. The beast gurgled and stumbled out of the hole, only to fall to the ground. He stomped on its neck, cutting off any more potential sounds or movement from his 18th kill. 2 to go, he thought, just as a shiver went down his spine, warning him about the next incoming monster. It was already back in the window, ready to step onto his side. Isaac didn't let that happen, and in a single move, he grabbed the crowbar and swung it up right into the wretch's chin. The impact sent it staggering backward, its head cracking against the edge of the desk above. Still, that wasn't enough to kill it. Before the beast could fall, he took it by the neck and yanked it forward. A knife to the temple finished the job. One more. His gaze snapped to the last wretched, the one that had been left behind. It must have fallen again when he shoved the second monster back, because only now did it manage to scramble into the opening in the barricade. Isaac didn't give it the opportunity to reach his side. More wretched were already closing in on the entrance, and he had to somehow close the door after this kill. Time was the essence. And so, with the crowbar in one hand and the knife in the other, he lunged at his final enemy. The battle-worn tool struck its head before it could even lash out, and the blade followed right after, plunging straight into its right eye. The wretched stilled, and the interface's red text returned, changing its numbers for the last time. Current progress, 20 out of 20. Rewards claimed, 403 out of 500. Isaac grinned wide as the blood in his veins burned hotter than ever. It should have been uncomfortable, maybe even deadly. Yet it wasn't. He loved it. That final kill only intensified this sensation. Focus up, he scolded himself. Still got a job to finish. Gotta close those doors. He nodded and reached out to push the corpse out of the way. However, his hand never made contact. The world around him shifted. Darkness swallowed his vision. He blinked once, then twice, but nothing changed. The lobby of his apartment building was gone, replaced by a void in which he could still move. Solid ground remained beneath his feet, and even if it was disorienting, every single part of his body still responded to his command. Hell, he still had the crowbar and knife gripped tight in his hands.
What's going on? Isaac gulped as the comforting thrum of his blood vanished, taking away his strength.
Silence, complete silence, surrounded him, and for the first time in his life, he hated it.